This is a spot to say, don't go murder your leader in a cave somewhere.
Yeah, lots of asterisks going up right here.
That asterisk key. Like, let's just hit that a bunch of times. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Church Chat. This is a show where we have conversations about ministry that you wish you were having. These aren't conversations people are having in seminary. They're real, honest, transparent conversations about ministry. My name is Josh. I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Emily, and we're super excited to have this guest today. He is a faithful contributor to the EFCA East blog. He wears Chaco sandals and is the lead pastor of Susquehanna Valley Church. Matt Saxinger.
I don't know about the sandals, bro.
And I hope I pronounced that right.
Sandals, Susquehanna.
Susquehanna. Okay, I made a note, and then I freaked out that I had pronounced it wrong. So I did. Susquehanna Valley Church.
Yeah, it's sandals. It's either Chaco sandals or dress Crocs if it's too cold.
Oh my gosh.
They look good 90% of the time. So,
well, welcome to Church Chat. We are super, super glad that you're here. We like to intro our guests more fully with a little game, 2 truths and a lie. So I will let you take it, Matt.
Yeah, so this is one of those things I could have spent like an hour on, but I literally just took the first 3 things that came to mind here. So I'll give you my 3 statements, and you got to figure that out. So
yes.
First one is that the asterisk key is by far my favorite key on the keyboard. Second one is that I've been on the Phillies baseball field to receive an award. And the third one is I've been charged by a bear.
Huh.
Ooh, those are really good.
I have some thoughts.
Okay, go, because I am not.
So first of all, I want to say that this is not my answer, but I want to say the asterisks, Matt's a big New England Patriots fan. I feel like there's a big asterisk next to that Deflategate. So I want to say that, but man, I don't know. I also know, like Emily doesn't know, you're an outdoorsman, man.
No, he has that look to him. I would have guessed that was true, that you've been charged by a bear.
So I don't know. You want to go first, or do you want me to?
I'm going to say the Phillies. You have not been given an award. I don't know.
I don't know. See, I think he would think that I would think the bear thing was a true story because I know all of his outdoor hunting adventures. But I'm also know like that's probably a story that comes up early in the conversations. So I'm going to say that he's lying about the bear. What is it, Matt?
I am lying about the bear.
Oh, gotcha.
I've been confronted by a bear, but not charged. So difference there. He actually saw me and got scared and ran away, and I have no idea why. But
well, you're a scary looking dude.
Mm-hmm.
It was those Chaco sandals. He was like, I don't know what this is.
I think that's exactly. He looked at me, then saw my feet, and just turned and ran.
Mm-hmm. You were messing with me with that one.
I
thought you had, but I know we've talked too much. I know that I would have heard that story.
Okay, but now I want to know what award you won.
Yes. So that's kind of like I kind of like twisted that a little bit because the baseball team that I was on the year before they were incredible and won like everything you could win at that level, and they got invited to a Phillies game, but it wasn't until the following season. So I just went on the field to get the award with that team. Our team was awful. Like we were like 0-12, but we got to go on the field and get the award.
Sometimes you just slide right in there.
And the asterisk key, like that key is worn down on my keyboard. I don't know, for some reason. I think I've used like 20 in this document that I'm looking at right now. It always seems to be the perfect key.
It is. It's underrated for sure.
It is. I agree. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So Matt, man, it is just a great honor to have you here as a guest. I've known Matt for a couple of years. He's a friend, a fellow pastor in our district. If you're listening to this, you're not from our district, the EFCA East. Matt's been does a phenomenal job at Susquehanna Valley. It's just fun to watch his leadership, to listen to the stories we share. So I'm just really pumped that we have you on here.
Yeah, man, excited and definitely honored to be here, and hopefully, just good stuff for us to talk about. Even if you don't like glean anything from this, if it just starts a conversation, that's a good thing.
Do you want to like tell us anything else about you other than I feel like I'm just going to need to lean into Susquehanna, even though I know it's Susquehanna. I'm showing that I'm not from this area. I'm so sorry.
No, you're just straight out of Cali.
Susquehanna.
So Matt has a couple. I botched that intro. I guess Matt has a couple.
Like, are you gonna share anything else?
He's got a couple of kids, 2 boys, right, Matt? And I'm not forgetting anybody. And outdoorsman too, being raised right, and his lovely wife down there.
Yeah, she's definitely the best part of it all. So I'm looking forward to taking her some lunch today and just making her smile.
Oh yeah, because we're recording on Valentine's Day. So
yeah, you're probably not listening on Valentine's Day.
No, you're not, but it is Valentine's Day. All right, so I guess let's jump in. Josh and I are both really excited to talk about this topic with some fear and trepidation because it's kind of a weighty topic. We're talking about surviving toxic work environment and kind of leading in a new way. I'm sure we'll talk about more things, but that's kind of the general vibe. And it's kind of an oddly prescient topic right now because as we're recording, kind of news of another megachurch pastor broke that they resigned and because of some bullying and shaming of staff members. So it is weighty and it's really sad that it does happen. And it seems like in a church environment that should not happen. So take it away, Josh.
Yeah, Matt, man, we've talked about this a lot and I just feel like it's something that we all need to be aware of, like as leaders. 1, for our own accountability, and 2, just because, I've been beat up by church before, and you've been beat up by church before, and it's just a tough topic that needs more light and conversation to it. I know this is like difficult because, you're such a good dude. You don't want to talk about anybody in a negative light, but also your experiences are something that we could really learn from because you have served before you stepped out to be a lead pastor, which you've been for some time now. You served under some unhealthy leadership. I don't know if there's another way to describe it besides just unhealthy. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and maybe how it affected you personally?
Yeah. And what's funny is like as you asked me to think through this topic, I haven't really worked anywhere other than where we're at now, where this hasn't been a part of my life. Like even going back to working at a grocery store when I was 16 years old and just having like bosses with ego trips who thought they should be CEOs and were instead in charge of the deli and just like taking it out on me. Like it's just been my path for whatever reason. And let me just say this, like, kind of a disclaimer up front. These are my circumstances as I perceive them. Right. I could have perceived things wrong. I don't know the why behind what people did. I just had to work through my own side of it in an absence of anything I felt was healthy on the other side. But none of this is to like kind of put me out there as like I'm the hero or even the victim. But there's moments where I sinned in these processes. And that was part of my growth and my journey and realizing like, yeah, Matt, you want to do the right thing, but if you do it in the wrong way, that doesn't really help the situation. So yeah, but it's kind of my experience. So like personally, let me start with like just coming home from work at these seasons was just, I was frazzled. It's so consuming because if you're in ministry, it's not a job. Like this is your passion. It's your calling. It's who you are. So the work-life separation is difficult when everything's good. And it's even way more challenging to try and divide that when it's toxic. Again, shout out to my wife for just being perfect for what I needed in those seasons. But really just got to a point where I couldn't even really navigate through it at home because everything was just so unsolvable. And just having moments where, my wife and I would just kind of, cry at different times and, not have a clue as what was next. And so like, personally, it wrecked me pretty bad, made me question my sanity a number of times. Um, it destroyed some of my closest friendships with other staff members and people who were key in the church, and legitimately had to be talked down from quitting and going and taking a job at McDonald's on several occasions. We're just, you're second guessing everything. And what's funny is, like I mentioned, like questioning my sanity. And Josh, our friendship goes back like about 5 years now. But you were the first person to affirm what I saw in the unhealthiness of the situation. So I left the church that I came from, came to Susquehanna, and started things here. And there was still a part of me in the back of my mind that was like, was I just nuts that I thought all that stuff was going on, and it wasn't, because nobody else was seeing it. And then, Josh, you randomly met that same leader that I had worked under for 7 years. And I remember exactly what you said. You were like, hey, man, I don't want to offend you because I don't know what sort of relationship you still have with this guy, but the dude should not be in ministry. And I only talked to him for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, man. I feel like we need to push in just a little bit. What are some of the things? Because this is translatable. I think the same struggles pop up in every.
Yeah.
There are temptation for all. What kind of unhealthy things were you stuck under? And it can go back to grocery store land, your last church, whatever.
Yeah. So overall, like there's just a power thing where somebody kind of goes into a place where they assume that what they say is, and what they believe, and really what they think about you is, they're 100% correct, and you're not going to change that. And just we had a lot of dishonesty where one person was told one thing. Like I was tasked with leading a preaching team and helping to grow that team as like a leader amongst peers. But then, publicly to the other people, this leader would essentially say, no, there's nobody leading this team. And so I was trying to lead it, and then I was, being undermined, on the other side. He intentionally created rivalries to try and make us better, that we would be jealous of each other, and it would spur us to get better. Just a lot of things where it all felt very slippery, was probably the key thing that I felt. And then other people, when they did come to realize it, felt like it just was tough to actually pin down what he believed or why he did. And again, this is my perspective. What was balanced by what other people saw too.
So did you have like a moment? Because so just a little bit of our history. My husband had a kind of a similar situation where he had a verbally and emotionally abusive supervisor. And it took a while for us to like realize that was happening, and like others who were experiencing the same thing to like kind of connect. And I have very vivid memories of like when all of those pieces got put together, and it was kind of like oh, this is what's happening. Like, did you have a similar like aha moment of, oh, or was it more of a gradual like frustration with this process?
For me, it was definitely more gradual. And I've talked to people who had that, aha moment. But I think by nature, I tend to want to try to resolve things as best I can. And so it would be like something would happen, I thought we resolved it. Something would happen, I thought we resolved it. But there was, I guess there was a moment where I came into the office late at night to grab something, and that lead guy was having a private meeting I knew nothing about with honestly my two best friends in the church, who happened to be on the elder board. And like, I wasn't trying to do the whole eavesdropping thing, but within and I was only there like 5-10 seconds, and it was obvious what was happening, is he was just like trashing me, and basically talking about how to move on from me. And I was just like, that was the literal straw that broke the camel's back at that point. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of people suffer for a long time under unhealthy leadership, without really being able to call it to account because of the church setting. We're supposed to lead with grace and forgiveness. We're supposed to be paying attention to ourselves and making sure it's not our pride. And I think there's a lot of people that, maybe don't see it right away. And it almost makes it more dangerous, like at the grocery store, man. Like I've had bosses, like some terrible bosses in the secular world too. And I'm like, it's a little easier to at least on some standpoint say, all right, this dude isn't the same as me. Like what I shouldn't expect better from him, like he doesn't know grace, doesn't know love, doesn't know Jesus. So I think there's probably a lot, and maybe even some listeners out there listening now that are like in the middle of it and being gaslighted, manipulated, talked down to, and they're taking it all on like maybe it's my fault. How do you speak to that and add clarity for somebody that's maybe listening that's in not a healthy situation?
Yeah, so you definitely need to have people in your life who are unbiased and outside the situation. Because I tried to talk to people inside the situation at first, and what I found was, like you're alluding to, in the church world, people don't want to see it, and I think that's why it gets so big. And Emily, you alluded to the mega church issues. Like things are going so well that nobody wants it to be true, and so everybody wants it to fix itself or to not need to be called out because of what they're afraid is going to happen. But yeah, so to get some perspective from somebody who's not in it is just so, that was vital to me. And I talked about like really feeling like, am I crazy, was the biggest thing I wrestled with again and again. And having trust with the people who are like, Matt, we've seen your life, we know you. Like if this is not sitting well in your heart and you've tried to resolve it, the issue's there, even if somebody else isn't seeing it.
So I love that you've talked a lot about just your process in all of this, because I am somebody who is still on the process of just kind of like dealing with the ramifications of all of being under toxic leadership in that sense. Can you talk a little bit about the process you've been on, and are you still like where you're at in the process, if you've like reached forgiveness, and like maybe what leaving that church was like for you?
Yeah, and this is gonna sound gross, but it kind of fits with like the disgusting process of dealing with toxicity. But it's kind of like if you get a cut on your knee and it like scabs over, like it's starting to heal, but then you bump it again and it comes open again and you're back to square one, or maybe it's not square one, maybe back to square two. Like I feel like that was my healing process. Like I thought like I got out of it, and like there were parts where I was like, all right, we're good, and then like somebody passed away at that church, and the family wanted me to come back and do the funeral. I'm like, well, I just said I never want to go back into that building again. And God was like, no, that might be what you want, but that's not what I want. And so like it was kind of over and over again. And for me, it's kind of like that First Peter 5 concept of cast your anxieties on God. The text it's literally keep casting. Like that's an ongoing thing. And I probably cast that anxiety onto God like 1,000 times within the first couple of years. The other thing that really helped me was when I came to Susquehanna, I came to a place where everybody on staff or everybody we hired was coming out of an almost identical situation.
And that's crazy. Mm-hmm. Now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The fact that there are so this is a real problem.
Oh,
like if you go to and that many people have suffered under some toxic or unhealthy leadership in a church environment, that means that, like, honestly, if people are listening to this as leads, like, check yourself. You know what I'm saying? And if you're and like it's just like time to set this right. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, and at some point I think we'll get into some of the ways we can guard against that as leads, because this really opened, and my whole life opened my eyes to how dangerous this is, and how much it'll just quickly wreck a church and a ministry. And so just to have those checkpoints that exist where we have an elder that connects with each staff member, where if there's anything ongoing, like first off, the staff member has an issue with me and they go to the elder, they have total permission to do that. Our elder's first job is to say, how did you resolve this with Matt so far? Because if the answer is, well, I haven't really done anything, the conversation ends and they go back to me. But there's a checkpoint there on a regular basis where that staff member feels like they can speak about something that's unresolved in a healthy way. And so that's there, because I know that I'm not immune to this sort of thing happening in my world, especially like we've kind of been in a steady incline of growth since I've gotten here. These things really start to show up when in two scenarios. One is things aren't going well at all, and the lead guy is looking for people to blame. Is a key one. And the other one is, and it's surprising, but Emily, it speaks to what you talked about. Things are going so well that the pride is just inflated, and you've got to move so quickly that you start to move without accountability, and then shortcuts happen, right? It's weird how it's like the steady incline is not immune from it, but from my experience, that's been the less frequent place for it to show up.
That's very helpful.
Very, very helpful. So what would you, okay, because clearly I still have some working out to do. I think one of my hangups is the knowledge that like a lot of these people get away kind of scot-free without other people recognizing what they've done, because Tim's previous supervisor got to resign and his resignation letter was like, oh, I just feel called to do something else and all of these wonderful opportunities and peace out. And for me, who like clearly I'm showing that I still need to work this out, but like it's really difficult when like I just want to tell everybody like he was so awful, and
yeah, like somebody's made your life miserable,
but like everybody gets to view him as the same old person when he has like really deeply damaged part of our lives for, you know, a few years. And again, that's me not having a gracious attitude, but it's hard.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you're asking that question, because we're really kind of getting into the heart of the healing process there, because we, being in ministry and having walked with God and understanding his sense of justice, have that heightened awareness of like moral right and moral wrong. And the challenge is the best toxic leaders are also, they're incredibly good at spinning things.
Yeah.
They're incredibly good at taking a negative and repackaging it in a way that everybody perceives it as a positive, that was why it was so slippery for me to be around, because I would be like, well, here's a clear gap where somebody was dishonest, and I could point to it literally. And within like 30 seconds of him talking, other people are like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so, Emily, the biggest thing that I have had to lead my staff through, that God led me through, is just totally trusting that these things happen on two levels. There's a human level where they got away scot-free, but then there's the divine level where the wicked are not escaping their ways. And I got to trust that his reputation is at the end of the day in God's hands. The same that my reputation is in God's hands. Yeah. Because everything was spun in a way that I was the one who was greedy. I was the one who was power hungry. I was the one who wanted his position. When I'm meanwhile saying, I literally do not want your position. And then when I finally resigned, he was like, I need to tell the staff, not you. And he told them like he wanted my position. And I'm like, this, so yeah, you're walking away and feeling what the scriptures speak to so often, which is the shame and dishonor. But the solution that comes so often in these scenarios in biblically, and I'm thinking of like, you know, Tamar's situation in Genesis, where, you know, oftentimes we try to find a solution to our reputation, but really it's in God's hands. And the solution God brings is way outside the box from what we, you know, would have anticipated. If you would have told me that 5 years after leaving that situation that I'd be talking about toxic leadership in, you know, in a healthy way where, you know, other people can be blessed, I would have been like, I don't see how that's going to happen with the way things unfolded. I mean, I would have been like, what? Maybe I would have stopped working at McDonald's long enough to be able to talk to somebody, but yeah.
This episode is sponsored by EFCA East, a district of the Evangelical Free Church of America. EFCA East exists to help develop transformational churches among all people by helping leaders live well, lead well, and multiply. We're here to serve you, whether you're in one of the 6 states that make up EFCA East or not. You can find more from us at efcaeast.com.
You're a lead pastor, I'm a lead pastor. I know I've made mistakes. Like, I've had to apologize to leaders, and I've caught myself, hopefully before speaking it out loud, trying to spin things in my head. And I think I'm aware of my own ability to mess it all up. So how do we guard against it as leads? Like, what's the, for me, so for me, maybe talking with you is a thing. I don't want to take any answers away, but there has to be a way where we can work on or pay more attention to not making these same mistakes. How do we guard against becoming the leaders that we fear becoming?
Yeah. And again, just love the question. And honestly, this one is, for me, it's pretty simple, but it just has huge ramifications after it, that I always need to have at the core of my heart the mentality that this needs to be able to live without me.
Yeah. Wow, that's good.
Like, if I go home today, Susquehanna, if Jesus just calls me home, Susquehanna Valley Church needs to be able to continue. They might need to do some things differently, but they can continue to grow. It's not relying on me. I try to farm out as much stuff as I can to other key staff members in a way that's not obviously not burdening them, but freeing them to do what God called them to do in their areas. But that's why we have worked really hard to change the culture from a one guy preaches all the time culture to I preach maybe 60% of the times a year. And we've got 4 other members of our preaching team, and have a 5th guy in the wings that we're kind of looking at and watching his life to see if God's calling him to that, where we're just kind of saying, you know what, this needs to be able to go beyond me. The church is bigger than me. One day I'm not going to be here. I've already talked with my staff. I'm 40, going on 42 this year. We already know if my intent is to be here and let God, hopefully grow me and grow the church as long as he wants. But we've already talked what succession plan looks like and when that happens, because I don't want to get to 55 is the stage where we begin to implement things for me. So I've got 13, maybe 15 years until we start to look at what that steady transition looks like. I don't want to get there and be like, give me another 5 years, give me another years. If we have right now at our peak identified some of those key things, when we've got a really healthy team right now, I don't want to step back at that point and say, oh no, now that I'm in it and we're enjoying some of that success, I want to stay. No, it's about what's best for the church, not what's best for me.
Do you think you've implemented that because of your experiences, or because that is such a humble, wise, kind of beyond your years attitude? Because I think a lot of, like we've said, a lot of the things that cause problems in toxicity is it's very personality driven. It's very name driven. Like, you are the ministry instead of God being kind of central. So that's a very wise approach. Is that because of your experiences that you're implementing that, or just your natural wisdom?
No, I don't. Yeah. A lot of good counsel from others, a lot of the life experiences, seeing somebody I really, really valued and grew under, and watching them unfortunately fall in ministry when they got around that age. And yeah, unfortunately, it's just being in a lot of it and being around a lot of it, because like you said, it's way more prevalent than we realize.
So how do you know when it's time to go or when you should stay and work towards a healthier solution?
All right, so this was good. I put a lot of thought into this one. And so here's the thing. I'm going to give some principles that I want us to think of in terms of, they are flags that are signaling it could be time to go, right? And so I'm going to give 4 of them. And I wouldn't say, don't jump on one of them and say, dude, this is me 1,000%. I need to leave because of this one. For me, it was all four of these, tipping up at the same time. But even still, like there are times where I know people and God has just called them to stick it out despite all the principles. Like it was just God's hand on their life saying, no, you need to stay. And it's kind of like that David in the cave moment where he could take Saul's life, and for whatever reason the Spirit of God just says, no, David, you're not going to do that. This isn't your time. You need to stick it out. So sometimes you just gotta listen to God. So that being said,
no wait. This is a spot to say, don't go murder your leader in a cave somewhere.
Got lots of asterisks going up right here.
Under that asterisk key. Like, let's just hit that a bunch of times. Nobody go out.
Well,
sorry,
no,
go ahead.
I mean, so that, and honestly, that would be another flag I didn't even think about. But when you're ready to do something evil, like that's because you look at, I think it was James McDonald who, like, his issue for where he left, or resigned from ministry, or was forced to resign. Like, just evil stuff showed up, and man, that's when that's your solution. You got to check yourself for sure. Yeah. But no, and I appreciate the asterisk use, Emily. Good job there. So, obviously, this is without you got to work through the interpersonal stuff as best you can. That's not a reason, in my opinion. But four flags. First one is when your influence wanes and your emotional capacity has worn. When your influence wanes and your emotional capacity is worn, that's a flag. When you don't have the influence, and again, my toxic leader controlled information, controlled people's reputations about me, where I would come up with ideas and it would be like they were disagreed with before they were even finished being broadcasted. And Emily, you talked about some of those key moments. One of them for me was I came up with an idea and I thought it was a really good idea, and it was like, immediately brushed aside. A year later, his wife came up with the same idea, and he came to me to implement that idea, which one told me he totally forgot about it, and two, he totally didn't, it was because the only other scenario was because of me. And so, like, my influence was just totally ineffective at that point. And just like, I found that I stopped caring, not even just for him, but for other people, because I was just so raw from my own pain and my own issue that I kind of, that was worn. And so that's the first one. If influence wanes, emotional capacity wears, then that's a big flag. The second one would be like when they categorically put you in a place that your trusted counsel disagrees with. So like they're like, this is who you are. You are always going to be a youth pastor. You're always going to be a kidsman. For me, the line was like, you're not a lead guy. You're more of a Sunday school teacher. What was the exact line? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So then, like, I'm reaching out to outside counsel, right? And I'm going like, hey, this is his perspective. I need to ask, is this true? Is this accurate?
Right.
Have I perceived myself wrong? And I need to adjust myself. And so, like, Doc Ayers at Langston Bible College was just such an awesome guy. And he was like, Matt, look at your life. Look at the way that you've seen God work. It's clear that, God has called you to this. So, but that wasn't just my opinion. That was actually 4 trusted people that I was like, here's the scenario. What do you think?
It's easy to listen to those kind of like lies when you're just worn down.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that you had some people speaking in, and that you had enough strength to listen to the truth from them and discard the lie. And there's a whole lot of people at Susquehanna Valley. You should say that name, Emily.
Susquehanna Valley. I will get it.
There you go.
Good job.
There's a whole lot of people that are very happy about that too.
I consider myself blessed to be here for sure. So I'm just thankful that God kind of said, no, McDonald's is not your calling. So. But yeah, so third flag would be when you question their theology and philosophy and you just can't get answers that you stand behind or trust confidently. Because like that, when they're the lead, those are the 2 things that you got to support in everything that you do, their theology and their philosophy. Yep. And I'm not talking about like, do they believe in tongues or not? I'm talking about like, EFCA doctrinal statement stuff.
Right.
if you can't stand in front of the church and say like, I really support their philosophy and I really support their theology, then that's probably something you want to figure out, right? And so there were meetings where I would literally write things down, like, what do you believe about this? And I would write it down because I wanted to have like a mark that I could go back. Because again, I thought I was crazy, like I wanted to not, And I had elders in the room at different points where I was like, guys, can we talk through this? And just, at the end of the day, dishonesty in other areas really eroded a significant amount of my confidence in those areas. So, and I could give specifics, but I think it's general enough to kind of apply across the board there. The fourth one is, and this was one that I didn't really realize until looking back on it years later. But if you're waiting for permission to leave from God and you get it, then you could probably move on at that point. I felt like after 12 years, I'd invested so much of my life at that church that I just needed to feel like I had permission, and God gave it to me. I wanted to stay because I wanted to guard it. But it became clear that was not my role. And so I needed to move on. I was talking to John Nesbitt the other day, and he said, as we were talking through this, he was like, and that when people get permission to leave from God and you step away, that's not an abdication of responsibility. Like, you leaving is not like a wrong to God. It doesn't mean you're selling out on your calling. You're regrouping and you're transitioning to do something somewhere else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you go directly from that church to Susquehanna, or was there like a gap period between them?
There was zero gap, which I don't know if that was the wisest thing, but on the other side, I don't know that I would have gone back, and so you wrestle with all kinds of fears in there, because I'm like, if I resign before I have another job, what are people going to think of, as they go through the hiring process? And so there are definitely things that I kind of wrestled with there. But no, I went right from one to the other. And like I said, I don't know that was the best thing, but it ended up being a good thing for us because I went to a place where they were literally right in the same staff. So
right. Now, how was this whole process for your wife and your boys? And I'm not sure how old your boys are, but were they like aware of what was going on or aware of the tension in you? And did that create, it sounds like you and your wife were very much on the same team, united in this. But I know for our family, it was rough, and we had like really little kids at the time. So they were probably oblivious, but like it was like so stressful and upheaved feeling in that whole time period.
Yeah, my wife and I she just saw a different side of me. By nature, I tend to be pretty lighthearted and looking to have fun in most scenarios. And like, that was just dead at that season. And so like she was, and she had a great job at a great place. That was all, like, some of the tough things were, we loved the church, we loved the area. Like you mentioned, me being an outdoorsman, like that was like the great area for it. And I connected with a lot of people because of it. But yeah, she was totally on board. Like, this is what we have to do, and we'll just figure it out. And so just her kind of quiet faith, but that was just really awesome. And the kids, the boys were, let me think, they would have been 6 and 4 at the time. And so, like, at that age, kids are incredibly flexible. You just want to be like, you don't want to make them bend too much, right? And so that was a challenge for us because they had the 6-year-old had just started friendships like that, were like, they were his friends. And it was kind of walking him through what new friendships would be like, and some of those things. And it was a challenge, but it wasn't a reason to not do it. It was kind of concluding that I trust that my God is big enough to be their God and help them work through this in a way that they can connect with. And it really was. They instantly formed really great friendships here, and God just totally blessed them in a way that's cool.
So we've talked about, I remember sitting down with you at some point and being like, man, or maybe it was a phone call and being like, man, you're in this church, it's growing fast. You got a great team. I had the privilege of meeting a bunch of your team, and I was really impressed with your leadership at Susquehanna. And I remember saying to you, like, man, it's crazy how good you are at leading this. You're like, what? And you're like, I'm just trying not to mess it all up. So what are some keys, maybe keys for leaders and maybe keys for the church in general to charting a new way, a better way of leading, a more healthier way of leading?
What's funny is, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there, but like we have so many people. It's not funny. Sorry. The funny part will come later, but we have so many people who have changed churches and ended up in Susquehanna because of similar things. And in our welcome class, like we ask people to kind of share some of their bad church experiences. And every single time we do that, there are tears in the room, which is fascinating because these people don't know each other. They're all, simultaneously new to the church. And we just had like 35 people in the room. And I would guess that at our last one, I would say 20 to 25 people cried when they talked about bad church experiences.
Wow.
And these are grown adults. These are grown men tearing up in a public place. So like these things are painful. And so like people ask some of the reasons for like, why are we growing? And I don't know that we're growing like astronomically. I think it's just that steady incline of being a healthy place. And what we did is we kind of looked at all the bad church experiences and said, let's just stop doing things that are stupid. Like, like I don't, it's not really rocket science. It's just like, we're going to stop doing the things that everybody else is doing wrong. And let's just be a church where we're healthy and we love each other well. And we understand that every issue is ultimately a people issue. And we try to resolve it with that mentality. And one of our values is we're a source of grace, not drama. And so we're not ever going to let drama gain, a platform for power. We're not going to ever let drama like speak its voice publicly. We're just going to say, hey, like if that's an issue, let's work through it, let's resolve it, and let's try to love people well. So we know, like we can, like it doesn't take long. Just like sit down with people in your church and say, what are bad church experiences? It doesn't take long to figure these things out. They don't hide, they're there. And then we can lead with transparency and say, okay, so like toxic leaders control information. All right, well, any bit of information we can control, we just put it out there in a really healthy place, and we don't hide things and we don't like hide financial stuff. We let our elder board see every dollar we spend if they want. And we have no real fear of that. So it eliminates, a possibility there. It's just kind of looking to say, what are the issues? And they're going to be unique to your church and your culture. And saying, how can we lead? Like if we identify 5 pieces that are, prototypical issues. So like, I'll give you one of them. One of them is like a pastor hiring people because they're friend or family, right? So that's a common one. All right. So how do we avoid that? Well, if the ideal candidate, that doesn't mean we can't hire a friend or family. Right. It's just we're going to do it in a different way. And so like if the ideal candidate happens to be friend or family, I'm going to step out of a lot of that interview process. I already know, the bulk of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to make that more of a congregational thing than it is a me hire. And so just kind of looking to say, all right, how can we avoid this? This is, this is going to be a stumbling block for people. So let's lead transparently here.
Yeah.
How do you manage like because you're in the Harrisburg area, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have
in the Susquehanna Valley area.
Oh, okay. I'm again not super great with the geography or pronunciation of things over there, but there are other EFCA churches in that area. How do you balance or do you ever have a feeling of competition? How do you keep yourself from having that sense of competition with the churches in the area?
That's a starting spot for a lot of unhealthy stuff.
Mm-hmm. I love that you felt confident enough to ask that. That's really cool. So yeah, we have 2 other churches that are really, within 5 miles of us.
Okay.
EFCA churches, and I love them. I'm really, really glad that they are where they are and doing what they're doing. And so there's one like if there were 500 people in Harrisburg, it might be more of an issue than it is.
Yeah, that's true.
But within 1,000 yards of our church, we could pack out our church on a Sunday morning. There's enough people here, but I appreciate who those guys are and who their staff are, and they're different than us. They have a little bit of different personality. Their culture's a little bit differently. Hershey is one of them, and they're right next to the med center. And from what I gather from them, they really try to speak a little bit more of an intellectual message. And they've got a really bright guy at the pulpit. That is not the case at Susquehanna.
Come on.
I know.
But where we just try to be like really practical and connect the word of God right to people's lives. We get that community free. Like Benjamin and I will text each other from time to time. I just reached out to him for a question the other day. He reached out to me for a question. They're a little bit more theologically heavy than what we are, and I love that they're doing that, because there are all three types of those people within range of our churches, and so I just appreciate that they're doing what they're doing, and we're not trying. I don't think any of us have that sense of competition. We're just trying to do what God's called us each to, and what another church does doesn't really affect that.
That's awesome.
So you pastor a younger church, it's a growing church. What are some lessons that you've kind of learned along the way?
I think the trend is, if you hire young, you have the ability to connect with that next generation. That's a big thing for us. Is we want to think next generation all the time, in everything that we do. We have a passion and obligation for the next generation, and that shapes a lot of the things that we do. And when you have a younger staff, and so let me just remind us, we can't hire based on age. That can't be our goal. You're looking for somebody who fulfills the culture that you want to create. Right. So you just want to watch out for that. But so, like, if you happen to be working with the younger staff, that generation beneath me, I've had to learn that their schedule and their work ethic aren't representative of their passion and their calling. Their schedule, their work ethic aren't representative of their passion and their calling. So I've learned I've got to be a little more flexible, a little more fluid with their schedule. And I have to have the understanding that, it's kind of stereotypical, but that younger generation hasn't had to work as hard as some of the prior generations. Work ethic is something we can help somebody develop and grow if they have the passion and calling for this, or the right fit. It might just be something you have to flex over. And then I'll say, from my perspective, they don't want you to lord it over them that you're their boss. And again, that's unhealthy anyway, for all the stuff we talked about.
Right.
But my staff right now would joke about me being their boss more than I talk about it. And I feel like that's a healthy balance, where there's very few times where I remind them that I'm the one in charge, because it's not the way they're driven and motivated. That simply because I would tell them what to do, they should do it. I need to always think about, they want to understand the why behind what we're doing, and that's going to motivate them more than me saying, you need to do this for this, because I said so. And I think the other thing that I've learned, and I've learned it because I failed in this area, is they don't need to be me. God crafted them and created them in a way that they're called to reach the next generation. And so I need to kind of say, them not being me is probably a good thing. I just need to help them be the best version that God has called them to be.
Yeah.
And it's and probably one other thing here that I'll say on this is because we just came through the whole Great Resignation thing. I would say more than any other time, any other group that I've worked with, that generation needs to see that the grass isn't greener on the other side, more so than anybody else. Like they might have an issue and feel like they need to leave because it's going to be better somewhere else, right? And so for me, what I've learned is I need to handle that in a way that, one, is healthy for our relationships, but most importantly, it doesn't chase them out of ministry. Like, if they think it's really going to be better at another place, then I've got to wrestle with my insecurities on that end of it, right? Like, I can't take that personally. I just have to encourage and support that if that's where they're going, because the kingdom of God is better than me, it's bigger than me.
That's really good. I get so many takeaways from this conversation about church health and leadership health. And man, I'm just hearing you say so many things that resonate with me, like team over individual and people over the organization. That's just coming through, I think, So much unhealthy leadership comes from people, leaders trying to protect an organization and undervaluing people. And man, love is the best motivator, like not manipulation or coercion or spin. It's love.
Yeah, if you love your ideas more than you love people, you really got to step back and say what's going on.
Right. Just, like, let's be better. Let's just be better.
Just be better people.
I'm tired of it. Let's just be better. I'm going to try to be better. I know you, Matt, are trying to be better. Emily's trying to be better. Let's just be better together. Let's just be better leaders.
Matt, thank you so much. That was truly super helpful. And we like to end every episode by sharing something that's saving our life. It can be silly or serious. Josh, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Throw me right under there.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of it's so beautiful the last 2 days in my area. The sun has been shining. It's warm. I may struggle from a little seasonal depression stuff. So I'm just so thankful for God, for signs of spring. I know we'll probably get a crazy March snowstorm and it'll ruin it all, but we'll sled and make the most out of that. But I'm just thankful for this little window of sunlight and warmer weather. Remind me something better's coming.
I feel like we are weirdly on the same wavelength every time we do this, because last time we were on the same wavelength with sports, and this time that was legit going to be my answer, that it is sunny outside. And I also, as a Southern California native, feel like I need more sun than most, and this is not the best place for that. And we're in upstate New York, and it is sun out my window, and it's going to be 45, and I've never been so happy. So that is literally saving my life at this juncture.
If Matt says weather,
yeah, I know, then we're
killing
failed.
this question forever.
Yeah, it was gonna be my answer, but then Emily, you doubled up on Josh. So I'll go the serious thing, and okay. For all those guys who are just out there, or even ladies out there questioning the toxic leader situation, what has saved my life is just I have this to-do list that I work off of every day, and I try to knock it out as best I can. But at the top of it, above all of it, I have this list of who God made me to be, because that's way more important than what I can do. And I lost sight of that. I lost sight of that in that season, and being confident who God made me to be. So my list that I look at on a regular basis is God made me to walk with him in a trusting way and think in a unique way. God made me to shape culture everywhere I go and keep looking at where we're going. And God made me to operate best when I rest well. And so those are things every day. And then I know what drives me. I want to see the love of God and the gospel grip somebody's heart, is what I want to see. So
that's so cool.
That is amazing.
It's nice to finally have a good, solid, leadership adjacent spiritual answer for this question.
I know everything's been CrossFit or whatever, soccer, but
yeah, man.
I was gonna say fishing. Okay, I was gonna go with fishing.
Well, Jesus fished, so
amen.
There you go. That's spiritual.
And he wore sandals.
I still don't.
I feel like he would have worn Tevas though.
Chacos.
You guys are nuts.
If you spell Chaco backwards, I think it's some Hebrew word that's really important.
Dude, I stopped wearing sandals after college. That's
sandals are the best.
Buy some proper Nike sneakers.
You must have really ugly feet and you're trying to cover it up. That's what's going on.
You guys are missing out on the beauty of new pairs of comfy socks.
What's your favorite kind of sock?
I buy a lot of Nike stuff. It's not an endorsement.
We are not sponsored by Nike, but Nike, hit us up if you want.
Hey, yeah, what up? Well, thanks, Matt, so much, man, for being here. What an awesome conversation. It's just good reminders for me, and I'm pumped to have you. And we have no cool way of ending the show, so we legit just say bye.
Bye.
See ya.